galaxy far, far away. And a bookshelf straight out of the 90s. From Thrawn to Dantooine and everything in between. This is Legends Look Back.
And hello everybody, welcome to Legends Look Back. This is a show brought to you by Utini.com where we talk about all things Star Wars Legends. We're celebrating our rich EU history as well as diving into lesser known Star Wars classics. I'm your host, Jared Mays. Today I'm joined once again, always a pleasure to have you with us, all the way from California, Freddie C. How's it going, man?
It's going, man. It's been a week, that's for sure. We're going to be talking about some pretty intense, in my opinion, intense things today. It's one of those. I'm not going to spoil it, but it's a 50-50 with some fans, and I mean,
yeah,
it's a personal favorite of mine. But I can't wait to get into it and see how people react.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this episode. This has been a long time coming. As soon, Freddie, as we launched Legends Look Back in October, was it October? 2020 feels like it's been 5 years long already. As soon as we launched the podcast, I immediately re-downloaded this book because I was like, what Legends book do I want to read? And it's been a long time since I've read. I've been just hoping and dying to talk about this one. We're going to be talking about The Old Republic Revan by Drew Karpyshyn. But before we get there, we've got to introduce our other special guest, his first time on the podcast. You know him and love him if you are in the Utini family from Kanja Book Club. How'd I do on that, Patrick? Is it Kanja or Kanja?
It's Kanja. You gotta say it like the movie.
Tell that to Kanja Book Club with Patrick himself. How's it going, Patrick?
I'm doing well. Excited to be here, guys.
Awesome. Glad to have you too. And here, you're not on Mos Eisley anymore. I'll see if I can fix that. We'll have to keep you over here.
Put me back in the cantina. I'm not done with my drink.
Perfect. Oh my gosh. There's always something to figure out when you're trying to run a live Twitch show. And it's our second episode of doing this live. And of course, pretty exciting that this is our first time to have a guest, even though you are seeing him in such a weird scene here. Uh-oh, not working. No, not quite right. Patrick, you're gone. Where'd you go? It's all a lot of fun to figure out, guys.
Well,
there we go. Fixed. All right. Beautiful. Patrick, glad to have you on the podcast. And before we talk about why you wanted us to read this book, it's one that you were excited for us to talk about, we do have to address something pretty serious. Before we get any further into the show, and we're excited to have a wonderful, tremendous audience with us tonight, I will say this much. We've got an incredible community with Utini. One of the people we love the most at Utini is one of our content creators, Meg. Meg does all of our Instagram photos. She's writing a lot of our collections. She's making my collections that I write better. At like 11 o'clock on Sunday nights, she's always telling me like, okay, let's fix this part and let's make this part better. And why don't you add to this? She even helped me with my Revan collection, so we owe her for this episode as well. And that is our wonderful teammate, Meg. Meg and a group of ladies in the Star Wars fandom are launching a new site called Project Stardust. By ladies, for ladies, all about celebrating feminine Star Wars fans. And as they've launched this site, have received quite a bit of pushback, quite a bit of hate, trolling, people jumping in their DMs and being hurtful and hateful, targeting them. And we just want to be really clear on Legends Look Back that we, in particular, as people who particularly love Meg and love ladies in the fandom, want to be really clear that we don't stand for any kind of harassment in the fandom. We support this project. Couldn't be more excited for it. You got anything else you want to add on this, Freddie?
Yeah, just going back to the for ladies, Star Wars is there's a lot of very powerful women in Star Wars, right? You've got Leia, you've got Amidala. And of course, there's more, right? There's a lot more that we can talk about, but there's no, in my opinion.
You gotta say Mara Jade in Legends, Freddie.
Oh man, I don't know if George will be happy about that one.
George loves Mara Jade.
Yeah,
he created Mara Jade, right?
Sure. But the whole thing is we just don't have room for that hate. If you're against it, get out of here. Honestly, we don't need you. We don't need you in Star Wars. See the door. Yeah. Get out. Because
you heard it here, folks. Yeah. Freddie's got the door for you.
It's open for you to step out of. But I'm really excited to see what Meg and her team has in store for us. I'm excited. I just can't wait.
Yeah, absolutely. The fact of the matter is, Meg's one of the most wonderful, lovely, encouraging, positive, hardworking people I have ever had the pleasure of knowing in any context. But even if she wasn't, hate has no place in Star Wars. Am I right? And so we support you, Meg. Meg's one of our only guests who's been on the show twice. Mm-hmm. She's covered, I think, a record number of books on Legends Look Back. She has covered, 4 books in the Karen Travis, The True History of the Mandalorians series. That's what I like to call it. The unauthorized History of the Mandalorians, Republic Commando. Have you read those books, Patrick?
I have. Those ones, those are a little fuzzy in my mind. Those were been years back. But yeah, they're on my checklist.
Well, Meg did an incredible job covering those. We're excited, of course, to see what they crank out, so we want to start off the episode that way. But this week, we're going to be talking about the Old Republic Revan. I'm not going to say that entire title every time. All right, we're going to have to come up with a nickname, because that's a little bit too long for me. We are talking about the Old Republic Revan by Drew Karpyshyn. It's an incredible Star Wars name, isn't it? You say Karpyshyn, like the fish? Or how do you say it, Freddie?
You know what? I'm not even going to try. If there's 5 ways to say it, it belongs in Legends.
I think that you just got to put a few apostrophes in there. Richard Timothy's on 5,000 apostrophes. I think I heard Drew Karpyshyn on a podcast, 5 years ago, and I'm pretty sure I'm not making this up, right? So we're excited to be talking about this book. This, of course, came out back in 2011. Drew Karpyshyn is infamous, absolutely infamous in the Star Wars fandom for being the lead writer on what I would say is the Star Wars property. All right, hot take here, guys. I would rank KOTOR as second only in my Star Wars fandom to the Thrawn trilogy and the original trilogy. Then I would put KOTOR at third for me. Out of my trilogy of the best Star Wars that was ever Star Wars, I would put KOTOR right there. I'd say OT, Thrawn trilogy, KOTOR, and then somewhere way down the line is this book. Sorry, shots fired. Yeah, it's okay. It's great. But what's your history, Patrick, with the KOTOR games? Not with this book, but with the game specifically.
Man, I started playing them. A friend got me playing the first one in 2006, 2007. I was still in middle school, and so I still wasn't into all the games at the time. I was still pretty much heavy on like the original Battlefront.
Oh yeah.
What are those, like 2004 and 2005?
I just relived those the other day on Utini Game Night with Wes. It's absolutely excellent.
That's right, y'all were doing the original Battlefront.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god. Now, I got a hot take for you, Jared.
Okay, let's have it. Patrick's been on the show for 5 minutes, everybody, and he's got a hot take already.
Ooh.
Here it comes.
That I will say this: the KOTOR game and the second original Battlefront are top 50 video games of all time, and y'all can fight me on that.
Top 50? Okay.
Top 50.
Maybe so.
I don't think too many people will fight you on that one, actually.
Oh, okay. It's cold take then. Cold take.
Cold take.
People in the chat are talking about my Utini mug. Said I'm showing off the merch. Product placement at its finest. You too can order this sweet merch if you're watching this later on YouTube at utini.com/merch. Maybe. I think that's the right link. I'm sure Joxy will plug us with the link in the chat. How about this book? We've talked about the KOTOR games. Patrick, when we first talked about having you on the show, you mentioned this as being one that you'd be interested in talking about. What is it about this book that got you excited to hop on a Twitch stream, a podcast, a YouTube video? We're on all 3 platforms now, everybody.
The trifecta, the treble.
Absolutely.
No, I have I shouldn't say a love-hate relationship with this book, but I do have a fondness for this one. It continues the long-lost story of Revan.
Yeah.
And it's like the little building bridge between, the SWTOR game that came out, honestly, relatively the same time as this. Or if you get far enough in that game, you pick up aftermath of this book.
Right.
But it fills in all those black holes that are in KOTOR 2, and between KOTOR 1 and 2. And it adds to the mystique of him.
Yeah, totally. It really does bring them together. I would consider this like the third in the Revan trilogy. You've got KOTOR 1, KOTOR 2, which has little to no Revan at all, and then maybe like in a dark side Force Cave kind of a vision. And then you've got this book that just really brings the stories together. So I like it in that regard. And as Freddie mentioned, kind of a debated book in the fandom. Love it or hate it. It's got a mediocre reception. You want to speak to that a little bit, Freddie?
Yeah. So, I guess it depends on which platform you stand on, right? So you've got the KOTOR platform, and then you've got the MMO Tor platform. And depending on which side you're on, you tend to fall on one side versus the other. At least that's how what I've noticed.
Yeah.
Mainly because of I would say a few, I guess, changes in the story. It doesn't quite fall in line.
Yeah.
So,
right.
If you can get past that, what I've seen a lot, and especially Corey, if you read his review on Utini, he doesn't quite like it 100%, but he still enjoys the story. And I think that's where a majority of us can stand is, there is some conflicting information there, but it is pretty fantastic still. The storytelling is great.
What it has to do is canonize what was a choose-your-own adventure. You got to make your own independent decisions for your characters in those games. That's part of what made them so great. Choose your destiny, light side, dark side, gray Jedi. Anybody try to walk the fine line where they can force persuade and use force lightning? That's where it was at. And of course, I'm sure somebody in the chat is going to say, there is no such thing as gray Jedi. We're going to do a whole Legends Look Back episode one of these days about gray Jedi. You just buckle up, everybody. We'll have to get Freddie Prinze Jr. on the show for that one. We've already got a Freddie. We don't need him.
Yeah,
who needs Freddie Prinze Jr. when you got Freddie C?
I'm just saying, if we get Freddie Prinze Jr., that affiliate link money's going up. We're going from 4% to 15%.
Well, we got a YouTube show now. My little brother didn't care at all about my podcast until I sent him a link that we were on YouTube, and he was like, "Oh, awesome! I love YouTube." And of course, the very first episode, I made fun of him for sending my Christmas present late. And so, guys, we are going to dive into this one. Came out in 2011. Of course, the first, in terms of the timeline with this, it's the first half of the book is set 2 years after KOTOR, and then the second half of the book jumps forward 4 years to after the events of KOTOR 2. And so it kind of spans this weird spot in the timeline. If you have more timeline questions, everybody, hit up Trevor in Utini's Discord, and he will tell you everything you need to know about the timeline concerning the Old Republic Revan. I first read this book back, I think, my freshman year of college. Could have been my sophomore year. I got it over Christmas break. I think it was Under the Tree from Santa. And so it was pretty exciting that I was getting a Star Wars book under the tree. A nice new hardback is always especially exciting to get for Christmas. I remember reading this for my entire Christmas break. I mean, this was, for me, just the peak of relaxing after a semester of college, was getting this awesome opportunity to just dive deep into a Star Wars book. Freddie, does anything get you excited for Christmas quite like thinking about reading a Star Wars book over Christmas break?
Oh, that Christmas special, I tell you what.
Oh my gosh. How dare you bring that up? Does that technically qualify as Legends, the holiday special?
That is one of those legends that Lucasfilm has been trying to bury for so many years, but it's still there.
Splinter of the Mind's Eye Legends.
Oh, well,
You mentioned. All right, Patrick's off the podcast. Everybody, it's just me and Freddie. Now that he's mentioned that, we'll see you later. Bye, Patrick. It was fun while it lasted. Actually, I think we've still got your audio, even if it's just me and Freddie here. But no, that was really quite the book. And what would you rank higher, Freddie? The holiday special or Splinter of the Mind's Eye?
Oh, that is really hard. I would have to say, for those of you who have not seen the holiday special, you need to see it. You have to see how I hate to say this, but how terrible it is.
Well, I showed it to my wife the other day. My wife was like, "Wait, is this the thing?" And I was like, "Wait, you've never seen the holiday special? Stop the presses." I turned off I think we were watching The Bachelor. Turned that off. I was like, "We are going to watch this right now. Wait till you find out what happens on Kashyyyk. Wait till you see what the Wookiees are doing. You are in for a wild ride." How about you, Patrick? What's better, Splinter of the Mind's Eye or the holiday special?
Oh, Splinter by a hair.
Okay, yeah, I think I'd give it to that as well. If you would like that, everybody, you can listen to Legends Look Back Episode 8, which is now available for everyone worldwide, right? At least to all patrons for the time being. And it's going to be out pretty soon, hopefully on iTunes as soon as it gets approved. All of our episodes are going to be available for everybody now that we're out from behind the paywall. But this episode, what's even better than the holiday special, even better than Splinter of the Mind's Eye, is The Old Republic Revan by Drew Karpyshyn. Remember, folks, with the when it comes to us actually getting into the story, this is going to be spoiler heavy. So this is your chance. If you want to experience Revan's story in all of its incredibly two-sided glory, all right, this is your chance to get out, or you're going to have his story spoiled. Go ahead and sink 35, 40 hours into playing Knights of the Old Republic and then come back to us. Or maybe 35, 40 hours into the second game and then come back to us. The video's not going anywhere. But if you want to stick around with us, that's absolutely fine with me. You're in for a wild ride as we get into the story of Revan by Drew Karpyshyn. And I just lost it. Who was it, Freddie? Who was it that just subscribed? The notification came up, and then it went away. It was there, and now it's gone. Whoever it was, glad to have you here. Thanks for subscribing. Oh, we got those alerts, and then it slipped right by my notice. We're still figuring this out, everybody, in case you can't tell. So thank you for One Nile? Is that like Darth Nihilus?
Oh, like
One
Darth
Nihil,
Nihilus.
whoever it is, welcome, and thank you for joining us on Legends Look Back. We're talking about the Old Republic Revan. Here it is, folks. Years after rejecting the dark side, Revan has saved the galaxy from the hands of his best/worst frenemy. You know how it is. You've got friends like that, everybody, don't you? That is Darth Malak himself. Revan is once again haunted by Force dreams. Every time I have a bad dream, I'm like, well, you know, I'm not the only one. You got Anakin, you got Revan. That's what I tell my daughter when she wakes me up in the middle of the night with bad dreams. I'm like, you're in good company. Revan also has bad dreams. Anyway, he's woken up by these horrible Force dreams and comes to realize that they're actually fragmented memories of the events that led him to the dark side in the first place. So, in perfect video game fashion, written by a real video game writer, he goes off on a wonderfully video gamey adventure alongside his trusty droid. You know him and love him from KOTOR. No, not that droid. Not HK-47, but we're talking about T3M4, the droid that's, friendly and less likely to murder you. And, of course, the Mandalorian mercenary Canderous Ordo. They're going to retrace his steps as dictated by his Force visions in order to piece together his past. Don't you just love that? We're going on an adventure to visit all the places I've been dreaming about. Gotta love Star Wars, am I right? Meanwhile, on Droman Kos, the secret Sith homeworld, the base of the Sith Empire, a Sith Lord named Scourge is summoned by one of the members of the Dark Council, Darth Nihilus. Nihilus. You got Nihilus and KOTOR too. It's a lot of Star Wars names to keep straight, everybody. Darth Nihilus to solve a different mystery. She wants to discover who's been behind her recent assassination attempts. She brings in Scourge, an outsider, to try to solve it. He discovers the culprit, another member of the Dark Council, eliminates them, but, Scourge smells something fishy among the Sithie. How'd you like that one, Freddie? Fishy among the Sithie?
That was good.
Too much?
We'll just say it's okay.
I had a teenager from my church the other day tell me that I had, and I quote, he told me that I had major suburban dad energy. That's kept me up at night ever since he told me that. Every
Were
time
you wearing socks with sandals again?
It wasn't socks with sandals.
Socks
It was
and Crocs.
I had a polo shirt tucked into my jeans. He told me that was major. It was like business casuals, wearing it to the office, and it was summertime. Anyway, you know who else has major suburban dad energy? Darth Revan, because now he's a dad. Married to Bastila. They got their own baby, the Jedi baby, and Revan abandons him in order to go on another galaxy-spanning adventure. This time around, they're jumping all around the galaxy to find these locations from his vision. In particular, he needs to go back to this location where he had eliminated Mandalore back during the years of the Mandalorian Wars. They team up with some other Mandalorians, fight other Mandalorians, and end up in possession of the mask of Mandalore the Ultimate. Of course, after receiving this mask, Canderous Ordo takes up the challenge to try to unite the Mandalorians by donning himself as Mandalore once again. Canderous' journey goes on to his next step, but Revan still has some tracking down of some bad guys to do, as he discovers that the reason he had turned to the dark side in the first place was after having discovered the existence of the Sith Empire. Of course, after this major turning point in the book, we go ahead and skip ahead a few years because Revan's ship is shot down. Revan is captured by Scourge and Nyrus, and then T3M4 has to eventually repair the ship, make his way back to Republic space, where he alerts his other great Jedi friend, Mitra Surik. That is the exile from KOTOR 2. T3 alerts her to her and Bastila as well to Revan's capture. They team up together. That is Mitra Surik with T3M4. Eventually go and rescue Revan alongside Scourge, Androm Kas, who wants to stop the Emperor after having kind of befriended Revan during his many years there in prison. They team up. They take down the Emperor, except for they fail horribly. Revan then is imprisoned for the rest of time. But while he's imprisoned, after having tried to take down the Emperor and failed, he's secretly kind of assaulting the Emperor via the Force. How do you think that works, Freddy? What's going on there with Revan's assault on the Emperor? Even though he's been captured, it's like he succeeded, but he failed at the same time. It's kind of anticlimactic for Revan. Anyway, it ends with our great hero finally meeting his match, but he's not quite dead. He's in suspended animation after having failed his attempt at taking down the Emperor, but it was awesome. That's all we can say, right? All right, how would you rate this one, Freddy? On a scale of 1 to 10, Old Republic Revan was not the best summary. I tried, guys. I tried.
Well,
how would you rate this one, scale of 1 to 10?
Yes.
Best Star Wars book you've ever read. And you've got some good ones I didn't mention earlier, of course, that Drew Karpyshyn also wrote the Bane series. Yeah, they're very convoluted, Cheryl. Very convoluted.
The book in itself, I believe, is a little convoluted. It hops around. It covers so many things.
You've got these two major parts.
You've got two major parts, and you have a lot of I guess if this is your first book in the Star Wars, I guess, lore in the expanded universe, good luck. You're gonna need a lot of research.
Yeah, it would be good if you had played KOTOR 1 and 2.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to have read any other books in order to get into this.
No.
You just played the two games, but I would advise having played those two games before you read the book.
Oh yeah, and you know what? Even if you didn't play the two games, at least have an understanding of what the game is about, and I think you'll appreciate it. I would say so. For me, the introduction for with this book to me was a little interesting because I had not played KOTOR when I read this book, and the reason for that, everyone get your shot glasses out. I was heavily.
Oh no!
I was heavily.
Is it going to be Star Wars Galaxies? Everybody vote. What's Freddy about to say? 1, if you think he's about to mention Star Wars Galaxies. 2, if you think he's about to mention the truce at Bakura. All right, take a vote in the chat. Which one is it? Galaxies or Bakura? 1 for Galaxies, 2 for Bakura. Which one is it? Now, what's Freddy about to mention here? I'm going to guess Galaxies. Go ahead, Freddy.
Yes. So while everyone's voting. It was definitely Star Wars Galaxies. I was heavily invested with that game. I knew of KOTOR, and to be honest, I was just so enveloped with the intricacies of that game that I didn't play it. I didn't play it until much later on, and I knew the story. I knew everything that happened with it. I've seen the YouTube videos of everyone playing it. I just didn't have the time to invest in it. I liked it a lot, but I was more into the massive online part of it. So when it comes to that, I actually really did enjoy the book. It was very complex, right? It was really interesting, but it rates fairly high on my scale. I give it a solid 7.
Okay, yeah, Freddie, we typically have similar scores on these books. Before I make up my mind completely, let's pass it over to Patrick. Patrick, how do you rate this one? Can you go any higher than Freddie?
I'm happy that. If I can use words tonight, I might.
All right, Patrick's off the podcast. He tried and failed. All right, now go ahead.
Man, I'm fired on my day off already. Good lord. No, I think I'd give it a solid between 7 and 7.5. I can't really pin it down because it's one of those books that's, if you're really into mood for it, then yeah, you'll rate it a little higher. But
Yeah.
Also, audiobook form will keep you engaged in it a bit better.
Yeah, I've read the audio on this.
Audiobook 7 is a 7.5. The actual hardback paper copy 7. I'll put it like that.
I like that. Yeah, I think I've done both. I think I've done both the audiobook and the hardback. Haven't read the paperback, so I'm going to have a third read through here. I think I'm going to give this one a solid 7, maybe a 7.2. Just go a little higher than Freddie for the sake of mixing it up, giving it a whole 0.2 higher. How about you? Anybody that's read this one, where would you rate this? Let us know in the chat. Love to know. Based on just my summary, that amazing, wonderful summary, how would you rate this? Hopefully higher than Splinter of the Mind's Eye. But guys, we're trying out our first ever 2-part roundtable so that we're not keeping people glued to their computer screens, because Zoom fatigue is a real thing, am I right? 2020 in a nutshell. I do want to ask tonight all about the characters. Next week we'll talk about the overarching plot points, and we've got some great stuff to discuss. Awesome stuff on the horizon. Tonight, let's start off with, and this has been one of the major complaints, I think, with this book, is a lot of people have said, I thought we were going to get a book about Revan, and instead we got a book about a random Sith Lord. Scourge, okay, he's not the most successful Sith ever. He ends up being, befriended by the Jedi in his prison cell, and ends up trying to assassinate the Sith Emperor. As far as Sith are concerned, Scourge doesn't exactly pass with flying colors. He's not going to graduate from his Sith Master's program with magna cum laude. I don't know if they've got those for Master's programs, because I've been working on mine for 7 years with no end in sight. He's not the most successful Sith ever, but Patrick, what do you think sets Scourge apart as a Sith? What's your opinion on Scourge? Make it or break it with Scourge. Thumbs up, thumbs down. What do you think of Scourge?
I'm in the middle with him. Part of me, there's parts of this where I just oh my god, really? You're a Sith? Really? They let you into the Academy on Korriban?
He's like the most Sithy Sith ever. He thinks he is the coolest, legendsy. He's ultra aware of the fact that he is a Sith Lord in a Star Wars book written by a video game author, isn't he?
That's the best way to put it.
A very Legends character.
He walks around like he has the badge on his chest.
Okay. So your opinion of him is just like the really meme? Really?
Really? This guy? But at the same time, he's very aware of the actions of others, and this may be a bad idea for everybody, and this may be a good idea. He's very self-aware. Will self-aware be a good way to put this?
He at least, I would put it this way, Scourge is not buying into the system of sucking up to all the different members of the Dark Council. Scourge is kind of fed up with the politics of the Sith Lords, and it's kind of more dedicated to being an awesome, dark, broody Sith than he is to trying to play ball by all the Sith rules. What do you think? Is that true, Freddie?
Yeah, so the vibe that I get from Scourge is a little different. It in my opinion, it's almost the opposite of Anakin. In the sense that he's a Sith already.
Some people would say that's a good thing, if the opposite of Anakin. Not Adam. Sorry, Adam.
Sorry, Adam. But in the sense of he knows he's a Sith, but he doesn't seem like he fits in. That's the best way to put it, honestly. He just doesn't fit in.
Until he meets his BFF down in the prison cell.
I have a question for y'all.
I'm the one asking questions here, Patrick. What do you think this says? All right, Patrick is fired for the 3rd time. All right. It was fun while it lasted.
Man, that's a record.
All right, go ahead, Patrick. Go ahead. It's fine.
Does he compare to Malgus to y'all? Because that's one comparison I always thought of him as.
Yeah, I've definitely... I do get them a little bit confused in my mind. They've got that, at least in the audiobook. I think that Mark Thompson uses the exact same Sith Lord voice for both of the characters. So at least for me, that gets confusing. My thought about Malgus is that he's a hopeless romantic if we ever get to that book. Which one is that one? Deceived? Here's my copy of Revan here. I meant to show it off early in the episode now that we can do this on YouTube. If you're listening on audio, I'm doing the Vanna White with my beautiful hardback of. No, I don't have the hardback of Deceived. Is that the Malgus book? What do you think is similar about Malgus and Revan, Patrick?
In Revan or Scourge?
Scourge. Yeah, sorry. I like that you say Scourge. I say Scourge like a Southerner. Scourge.
I'm not Southern enough for you?
Sorry.
I'm from Virginia, sir. You're part of this too.
If it's north of Arkansas, it's the north. Go ahead.
Well, that's a very slimmed down thing. South Carolina and North Carolina want to talk with you, sir.
Scourge.
But they're very much against the politics. They do not care for the undermining. They are both also, they recognize more of the warrior status than the actual political status. Like, both of them care about your ability in battle.
Yeah.
Way more than they actually care about who's able to sit at the negotiating
Sure.
table.
There's Sith who are more comfortable in the weight room than in the boardroom. There you go. That'll preach right there. So why do you find yourself rooting either for or against Scourge? And I find myself going back and forth. Are you pro Scourge as you're reading the book? Are you like, man, somebody take this sucker out? Let's have a lightsaber end this and get back to Revan. Are you rooting for Scourge or against Scourge, Freddie?
I would say rooting for. I like that he's a bit of a rebel, right? He's definitely he's got a rebellious nature for sure, and I like that in characters. I like he just seems like an actual. I don't know how to put it, but everyone's a Sith, I guess, on that planet. But he seems like a real Sith, right? Like just destruction and.
He's like a hipster Sith.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. I find myself rooting for him at times, kind of like with Malgus. I rooted for him at times. You could see. He's a hopeless romantic, that's for sure, Malgus. But I like Scourge. I like his character. I'm going with Scourge. That's his name for me too, I guess.
And we got a great question in the chat from Cheryl. Cheryl said that she's pretty new to all the Revan lore, which, hey, welcome. This is a great place for you. You can get caught up to speed, kind of, because it is a little convoluted. We'll say this much about your question. Is this before the rule of two? Yes, it is definitely something that Bane discovers and kind of engineers 3,000 years later. For all your timeline questions, find Trevor in the Utini Discord. But we will say that there's a lot of Sith. They're all hanging out. They're backstabbing one another, and it does not really bode well for many of them. There's a lot of Sith that get taken out in this book. And that's one thing that Revan loves to do. He's really good at as a Sith. Revan likes to really kill a lot of Sith. Yeah. So we've talked about Scourge. Did you want to chime in on this one, Patrick? Do you root for him or against him?
As much as I rolled my eyes at him throughout this book, I actually did root for him. I thought he was had that anti-hero vibe going for him. So I was like, you know what? I want to see you succeed. Yeah. You're trying hard, buddy.
What's cool about him is that he doesn't turn to the light side. Like, he definitely still stays committed to evil and darkness and, like, piercings, But for him, a lot of body armor. But for him,
did you really just say
piercings? Yeah, for me, it's like darkness. I'm like full light side over here. I'm like thinking, what's the darkest, meanest thing I can think of?
A hipster.
Neck tattoos.
Neck tattoos. All right, everybody can see my face turn red on the Twitch stream here. I will say this much. I cut over to Freddie's. People don't have to see me embarrassed. Is that the thing about Scourge is that he stays on the dark side. He never goes to the light. He does team up with Revan because Revan is an awesome Sith in his mind, not because Revan's a Jedi, right? Revan's got that Sith cred, a lot of Sith cred in Scourge's book. Do you think Scourge can read? You think he has books? I don't take him as a very literate guy.
Yeah, no. But
you know who does love to read? Revan himself. That's why everybody's here. All right, everybody who fell asleep talking about Scourge, wake up. Now it's time to talk about the only Jedi. I'm going to go ahead and say this. The only Jedi who could beat Boba Fett in a costume contest. Don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
Is there any costume in all of Star Wars that's cooler than Revan's?
That's really hard to compare. I mean, Darth Nihilus maybe not quite, but Revan for sure.
Not Nihilus and Malgus are up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cheryl is confused, and that's good. She's trying to figure out the whole thing with Revan. We didn't give the whole backstory here. Revan's thing is this. He was a Jedi who turned to the Sith, who then is captured by the Jedi, brainwashed by the Jedi, then restarted as a Jedi. Like, that's where you jump in and get the chance to kind of help Revan rediscover his identity. Eventually rediscovers his identity, has the choice, going to turn light, going to go back to the dark side. The canonical view in this book is Revan stayed on the light side after his conversion. At the end of this book, ends up on a dark side planet trying to take down the Emperor, teamed up with a Sith Lord. Does that about cover it, Freddie?
Yeah, I would say that's pretty good.
He's light, and then he's dark, and then he's light, but he might be dark again, depending on what path you chose in the video game. But then in this book, he's light. He's a Jedi. Does that cover it, Cheryl? You feel like we're all caught up to speed? What do you think, Patrick? Why do we love Revan so much? There are very few Star Wars characters more beloved than Revan. Why in the world does Revan have such a following among fans?
For me, I think he's everything that we wanted out of like a fully mature Anakin. Like he has all the ability, he has all the leadership roles,
Charisma.
Exactly.
What was that, Freddie?
Charisma.
Okay, yeah.
He doesn't have the emotional issues that Anakin did, but that's a whole other topic.
Well, I think it's because in the video game, he doesn't say much. He's mostly a blank slate, so he doesn't have a lot of emotional baggage. He's mostly just like having dreams and wielding a lightsaber, right?
Fair enough. But he's everything that you wanted in a Star Wars hero, or at least in a Jedi.
Yeah, he's definitely a superhero of legends.
He's not too dogmatic either.
Yeah. He's
not drinking the Kool-Aid, as the kids say.
Yeah, that for me is my answer, but before we come to that, Freddie, why don't you take a crack at this? Why do we love Revan so much? Why is there such a fan following for Revan specifically? I mentioned the costume. Yeah. Patrick mentions the charisma. What do you think?
I think it's his path. It's not linear at all. It is all over the place, and like you just explained to Cheryl, right? He's a Jedi who gets coerced, not coerced even. He just flirts with the dark side, becomes a Sith, gets his mind wiped, becomes a Jedi again, and then just decides. It's almost like his destiny is to go wherever he's going, right? And I think it's a mix of that. He's not a very linear Jedi, right? He's not into the dogma as much, but also he's basically a superhero.
Yeah,
genius, charismatic, knows like probably the best lightsaber duelist ever. Extreme force powers, everything you can think of, he's got it.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's one of the big criticisms with this book, and Charles makes a great point in the chat, that the reason we love Revan so much is he's a blank slate. We make Revan to be whatever we want him to be. So in the video game, if you want Revan to be the darkest Dark Lord there ever was, then you take that path, and you can summon Exegol-esque force storms. The coolest force power ever, maybe right above force persuasion, is the force storm, right? Not just force lightning. Palps ain't got nothing on Revan, am I right? But on the other hand, you can make Revan a knight in shining armor who rejects the dark path and does the right thing. He totally doesn't intimidate the droid salesperson and steal T3M4. They would totally take the better path. He would never kill the Wookiees. Anyway, so you can make him whatever you want him to be, and I think that is what makes Revan so. This book, at least, what makes it so controversial is it has to canonize the video game story in order to be able to tell the conclusion. A conclusion that ends in a cliffhanger. Man, Star Wars is so confusing. What do you think about that, Freddie? Do you think that's why people find this book controversial, that it canonizes the light side path, and people just really enjoyed their Force lightning?
Yeah, Charles has a point. He's a blank slate. He's exactly whatever we want a powerful Jedi to be. He's got morals in a sense. He has killed a lot of Sith. He's powerful. I mean, he's amazing. Honestly, he's one of my favorite characters. And the fact that you just add all of those character traits and throw in some amazing armor, it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, you throw in that cool mask, and in fact, according to the art of The Force Awakens, it did inspire the mask, the design work for the Jedi Killer, who would become Kylo Ren during the development phase of The Force Awakens. So if you feel like Kylo Ren is derivative of both Vader and Revan, you're right. That's intentional. That's what makes him as ridiculous and wonderful as he is that he's very derivative. He is a Sith fanboy if there ever was one. And that's why we love him and hate him and all of it. All of it. I think my answer to this on why we love Revan so much is, it kind of brings us into our next question, and that is, he steps up to the plate to save the galaxy when the Jedi Council drops the ball, right? The Jedi Council is afraid to enter war. They don't want to have blood on their hands. And so the Jedi Council doesn't step up to save the galaxy and defeat the Mandalorians. We actually find that Revan goes rogue, right? That can be the title of our mixtape, Freddie. Revan Goes Rogue, a Star Wars story, featuring our hosts in tank tops. No, I'll say this: it's what makes Revan so great is that he sees through the hesitancy of the Jedi Council, and he takes matters into his own hands. And I think now that we have kind of seen the prequels and we've seen the Clone Wars and how much that nuances the fact that the Jedi were not always infallible. That for me really resonates, that Revan, during the Jedi Council of his day, he looks at them and says, listen, you're not going to save the galaxy from these invading brutes. I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to lead a revolution if you're going to just sit on your hands. What do you think about that, Patrick? Do you think that Revan did the right thing in leading a band of Jedi to war to defeat the Mandalorians without the Council's approval?
I absolutely do think he did. It's either you go fight them or you wait till they're on orbit of Coruscant and they're bombarding the city. There's no way about it, because if we look even farther back, the Mandalorians were giving the Republic all the business. The Republic had no chance without the Jedi. So, and you think the Jedi can... Would it be right for the Jedi to be part of the Republic and not defend them in such a crisis? So, he did what he had to do.
And for more of what that war actually looked like, the trouble is we don't see the Mandalorian wars in the video game. You don't really know how bad they are. You don't know just how much Revan needed to save the galaxy. And that story is found in John Jackson Miller's seminal run, Knights of the Old Republic, so it was called, for Dark Horse, ran for 55 issues. I'm like halfway through it, and it does show a few issues of the Mandalorians showing up on a planet and just bombarding the city, taking, imprisoning and enslaving children out of their homes. I mean, it's brutal and dark, and so you do get to see what that looks like and why Revan has to step up to the plate. I do think that when he crosses the line, at least for me, is when that power goes to his head, and then he turns to the dark side to have more power, and there's the Star Forge, and we're gonna wear out Joxy and Cheryl, who have never played the game, with all these details if we're not careful. What do you think, Freddie? Did Revan do the right thing? Do we need to have Joxy print-up T-shirts that say Revan was right?
Whatever it takes. I side with DJP money on this one. I think what he did needed to be done, because if he didn't do what he did, who knows what the universe would have looked like, right? It would be nice to see what an alternate reality Mandalorian run universe or ruins, who knows what it would be. It would just be chaos. But he did what he had to do.
Oh, it means you absolutely talk about Fight Club at this point.
I almost watched that this week. My wife said, does it have fighting? Does it have violence? And I said, no. She said, I don't think that's true. So we did not watch it. Go ahead, Freddie.
Yeah, he did what he had to do, but what ended up happening was, I mean, he is basically a superhero in the sense that he had a lot of power. He destroyed a lot of things. And I think what needed to happen, honestly, for him to probably not go the route that he went would be for the Jedi to come in and just have his back, right? To just know that they were there too, but they didn't do that. So if I could just see he's probably just sitting there thinking, no one's going to help me. These guys are wrong. I'm just going to do my thing. And of course he just gets all this power and it goes to his head here, right? And that's where we're at.
Yeah, and this book does kind of give a retcon on that he discovers the threat of the Sith Empire, and I'm not totally clear on how much of this was his choice to turn to the dark side. I think that Karpyshyn leaves that a little bit nebulous, a little bit up in the air on whether or not Revan kind of was forced to turn to the dark side, or if it was his choice. You don't really learn that, do you, Freddie?
I don't recall, honestly.
Yeah. It's almost as if Revan had to turn to the dark side in order to amass enough power to be able to get the Sith army and defeat to be able to defeat the Jedi. And it's a little bit up in the air. I will say this much though, that for me, the redemption story with Revan is one of the most powerful in all of Star Wars. It's one of the things I love the most, especially as a Christian. I love me some redeeming allegories, and so this is something that for me is really important, the fact that Revan came back, and then when he faced his darkness, he had the choice to go back to the dark side and re-inherit the Sith Empire, which Malak totally would not have been cool with, but then he instead chooses the light. And that's one of the things I love, is that every day we have a choice. Am I right? And there we go. There's my there's my sermon of the day. But what do you think, Patrick? Do you prefer dark side Revan or light side Revan?
I like light side redeemed Revan because I think he does walk that balance. Back to my earlier point, he is that balance that everyone wanted from Anakin. That he carries both halves and he understands both. And how he operates, he's outside of that dogma. So he's more in tune.
Right.
Light side Revan's more in tune with everything.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of dark in him, a little bit of light, a little bit of both. He's on the light side, but he's got a wife, right? He got the girl in the end. That for him is what sets him apart, right? And we can talk a little bit more about Bastila. Before we do, let's take a quick break, and we will be right back to talk about a couple more characters before we wrap this up. And we are back, everybody. Thank you. Everybody's talking about my Jedi pastor handle. I love that. That's a huge shout out to Charles for coming up with that one. There was a meme that had circulated in the Discord of Yoda wearing like a suit and tie. It said Pastor Yoda, and Carl and Charles said that was me. And what's funny is in my denomination we don't even use the term pastor, but it's something that I definitely enjoyed the comparison. If I have to be Pastor Yoda, I mean, I guess that's fine. So it's not pastor like the meat, pastor like the shepherd, right? Okay, enough of that. I will say this much. We were talking about Revan getting the girl in the end, Bastila, of course, or if you're Freddie who says Bastila, like he doesn't know what he's talking about. Isn't that how you say it, Freddie?
Bastila, yep. That's it.
Revan and Bastila have a family. They've got a child, Avner. In this book, it's like Revan, but backwards, because sci-fi. And at this point, my biggest complaint with the book, okay, more than how much time we spend with Scourge, which is a lot, my biggest complaint is that Bastila was the Jedi. All right, I'm about to rant here, okay? Bastila was the Jedi who captured Revan. She is the leader of the strike force that takes down a Sith Lord, for crying out loud. Okay, and I know that it's nuanced because Malak betrays them, and Malak is the one who shoots down the ship, so maybe it was Malak who ended up kind of aiding in his backstabbing, helped Bastila, but it was Bastila, right? Bastila is a mighty Jedi warrior, and this book basically sidelines her, right? She is just a stay-at-home mom. Now, I don't want to say, I want to be really clear on this for all of our moms listening, that being a stay-at-home mom is just as heroic as being a Jedi Master. Am I right?
Yeah.
That's where you say. That's where you say amen, Freddie. There you go.
Amen.
There's nothing unheroic about being a stay-at-home mom. Taking care of kids, changing diapers, cooking meals. You know, the big problem with this is that this happens all too often with the Ladies of Legends, right? They go from being an awesome hero, somebody who can totally rescue the dudes who think that they're the ones doing the rescuing, and then before you know it, they're raising a new generation of Jedi, and they're like, we've got a sacred duty here. But it's a little eye-rolly, don't you think, Patrick?
Yeah, especially going through the first KOTOR and how awesome she was, just tearing up everything. And gosh, wait, Revan can't take her with him, with him on his journey. Like, she can handle herself. I don't care. I'm pretty sure a pregnant her can beat 4 Mandalorians.
There you go. Right, maybe not 5, but at least 4. That's a good point.
Oh yeah. He can pick up the 5th.
That's a good point. I like that Rob in the chat says Ladies of Legends would be an amazing cover band. We do have an episode planned called The Ladies of Legends. So we're going to talk about all of the best Legends ladies. And for some reason, we've just lost Patrick, and he's back. Wow. Whew. In and out. Just like Revan going to the dark side and to the light, we lost Patrick for a second there. What do you think there, Freddie, about Bastila? You know, obviously she's the Jedi who captures Revan. Do you think she's done dirty in this book?
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest critiques of this book is how sidelined she is in a lot of cases. And you know, if you play the Old Republic, the MMO, she's basically the same thing, right? She's powerful. She's in charge of a lot of things. And you know, they make a Revan and Bastila.
Oh, come on.
Bastila.
They say Bastila in the game.
They do. They, they're an absolute A team couple, in my opinion, and extremely powerful. It's just a shame. I wish this book would have shown her in action, but
yeah,
it is what it is.
Somebody get us some good Bastila fanfic. All right, make it PG. I don't want that kind of fanfic. Don't want that stuff. Let me get a great Bastila standalone novel. It's going to have to be fanfic because we're not getting any new legend stories these days. But I'd love to have a standalone Bastila book. Kind of like Queen's Shadow, but better and with Bastila, right? Okay, shots fired there. No, I actually enjoyed it just fine. You know who else is a great couple, though? Not just Revan and Bastila. Revan and Canderous. They are a dream team of Star Wars characters. You've got a Jedi who looks like a Mandalorian, and a Mandalorian who becomes an even better Mandalorian, right? I think that the team up between Canderous and Revan in this book is absolutely the best part of the book, hands down. Where do you think, Freddie, Revan and Canderous rank among the BFFs of Star Wars? You got some other good couples, you know?
Yeah, this is a tough one because if you go down the list of Star Wars BFF couples, right, you've got the infamous R2-D2 and C-3PO.
It's a good one.
Yeah, and you've got Han and Chewie, another A-team, right? They're, in my opinion, they are in the top 5 for me of Star Wars BFF couples.
I'm gonna say an underrated BFFs in Legends. What about you,
Very
Patrick? Where do they rank? Out of all the bromances in Star Wars.
Ooh. I think they'll have to take that 6th or 7th spot for me. Because, alright, my number 1 is still Anakin and Obi-Wan.
I don't even have them on my list. That's tragic.
My chest, my heart, it hurts, it aches. Look what
you're my brother, Anakin. That's just for you, Charles. That's for you.
Oh, you're going to have Adam in here in a minute just calling in.
You're going to make Heather cry.
If you say Anakin 3 times, he shows up. I'll say...
Also, you got to sprinkle a little sand.
The only other Legends bromance that I say that tops this one for me, and that's just we don't have a ton of this. You've got one video game, and, Mandalore, Canderous shows up in KOTOR 2, but there's no Revan. I would say the only other Legends bromance for me that is up there right alongside, if not better than this, would be Wedge and Tycho. It's a great friendship, especially later on in the timeline. They come back, they're retired. They've been like hanging out together all these years, going on vacations. It's a beautiful thing, isn't it? And one final character for us to talk about before we wrap it up this week is the Exile. That's Mitra Surik. So the protagonist from KOTOR 2 is basically the protagonist of the second half of this book. It takes a wild turn, and it integrates her character, canonizes her character. Obviously, you get a choice of her gender in the game. In this book is canonized as having been Mitra Surik. She was basically a disciple of Revan, who then was cut off from the Force for her actions at Malachor V. I just want a t-shirt. We have Joxy design a Malachor V t-shirt. Not Malachor. Malachor V. Am I right? But what do you think, Patrick? How satisfying is it to have the exile Mitra Surik team up with Revan at the end of the book? Finally, you get your protagonists from KOTOR 1 and 2 teaming up hand in hand.
The only thing better about that happening at the end of this book is if we could have got like KOTOR 3 and that happening.
Yeah, never, unfortunately. Everybody take, what's a good way to memorialize KOTOR 3? It never happened. Hats off. Moment of silence for KOTOR 3.
Pour a sip of beer on the floor for it.
What about you, Freddie? What do you think about the integration of exile in this book? Is it distracting to have a different protagonist in the second half, or do you think that it ties the stories together nicely?
I think it goes well. I liked it. It worked, in my opinion. I know this is another one of those things where people wish that it was someone else, right? Bastila, and it didn't quite happen that way, but in order to canonize the book and to get it, I guess, in line, it was nice to see that. I liked it. I liked it a lot, actually.
Yeah, I love the way that it ties them together. I think the very first thing I did that Christmas break was fire back up KOTOR as soon as I finished this book. And everybody, that's what you can do tonight, because that does it for this week's episode. You can go fire up KOTOR or KOTOR 2. KOTOR 2? Oh my gosh, try saying that 5 times fast. You try it, Freddie. You try it, Patrick. KOTOR 2?
Yeah.
KOTOR.
Got Patrick. We stumped him. There we go. Let us know in the chat. What do you prefer, KOTOR 1 or 2? 1 or 2 in the chat. Which one is your favorite? Which one are you going to be playing tonight, everybody? Next week, we're going to be looking at the overarching questions. Our first ever 2-part roundtable continues as we unpack the overall plot points. We're talking about the Revan Scourge team-up, the Sith Emperor's plan to conquer the galaxy. We're going to talk about comparisons with the Rise of Skywalker. That's right. We're even picking, and everybody, you've got a week to think about this, we're picking our own Sith names. We're trying to top Scourge. Good luck. It ain't happening, but you can try. You won't want to miss it. That does it for this week. Thanks for joining us on Legends Look Back. And thank you especially to our incredible patrons who have helped us get to this point. Now that we're live on Twitch, you can help us out by subscribing. And if you have Amazon Prime, you have 1 free Prime Gaming subscription a month. We would be honored if you threw that our way. If you've got feedback for us or want your question read on the show, you can email us now, legendslookback@utini.com. You can also join the Legends Look Back Discord channel, or you can find us on Twitter. I'm on Twitter at Jared Q. Mays. Freddie?
At Wake Up Freddy.
And Patrick?
I abstain from Twitter.
I forgot to ask you ahead of time, so there we go. And Patrick is a happier man for it. Good on you.
I really am.
If you're looking to buy some of these books and want to help support the show, you can look up a book on Utini, click the Amazon link in the profile, and we'll get a few cents to help keep the lights on, as you can do with the Old Republic Revan. Get you a great, beautiful hardback copy. You can even go to Thrift Books now. Get you one of these bad boys. Got to get your copy. If you're going to get a paperback, get it without the Legends banner. Isn't that right, Freddie?
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, another way to help us out at Utini is to show your love. Grab some swag from Teespring, including the Legends Look Back t-shirt. We've also got the It's Artfully Done tank, showing them off here once again. Just a second. That is one that you can check out. It would totally look great on you, almost as good as Freddie looks. Freddie always looks great in his tanks. You can grab some of this incredible merch. We've got some awesome stuff. Huge shout out to Joxy, who's been with us tonight, who designed this amazing merch for us. And also, if you've read any of these books, head over to utini.com, leave us a review, let us know what you think. And now more than ever, remember to keep the Utini fan code and be a force for positivity in the fandom. Freddie, Patrick, may the force be with you.